All right, so let's bring on our first guest. We have with us a good friend of mine. His name is Gideon Israel. He's the author of Broken Values, which is a book you can find on Amazon. The link is also in our description of this video. And he's also the president of the Jerusalem Washington Center. And he's also been mostly a soldier for the last year. Gideon Israel, thank you so much for coming to the show. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Always good to be with you, Yishai.
You know, Gideon, you have had a full day of media appearances. I want to show yourself, actually, just for a second, on I-24. No, excuse me, on Channel 14 yesterday.
הצליחה לייצר בסופו של דבר כמועמדים סופיים זה קמלה האריס ודונלד טראמפ. אמריקה הגדולה, זה אומר משהו הסיפור הזה קודם כל על אמריקה, שני המועמדים האלה שהגיעו.
So the host is saying, like, these are the two people that are the candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
בסופו של דבר לישורת האחרונה.
פידר מניו יורק, תודה.
סליחה לכולנו.
Okay.
תודה.
אני יכול לשאול אותך שאלה?
בבקשה.
Here comes Gideon Israel, and you've got a question to ask the folks there at the Channel 14 studio.
שאלות, אבל יאללה, אני זורם איתך,
חשוב, כי זה טרנד כזה, יש טרנד כזה באולפנים, נגיד, מה, אמריקה גדולה, זה מה שיש להם, קמלה האריס ודונלד טראמפ, זה מה שהם מייצרים, אני חייב לשאול.
Okay, so the question you're asking is, there's this trend to kind of make fun of these two candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Couldn't America, produce better candidates? And you're like, you're challenging him on making fun that these are the only two candidates that America was able to put out.
בצד של דונלד טראמפ. תסתכל על השנים, על הקדנציה הראשונה שלו, ותגיד לי, מה כל כך בעייתי בדונלד טראמפ? תסתכל.
Look at his first, how do we call it? His first term. What was so problematic in his policy?
שום דבר, אני לא חושב, אתה מסתכל כאילו בסוף על תמונת המועמדים בסופו של דבר.
אי אפשר להתעלם
רגע.
All that was just now is just being Israeliness. That's just Israeliness trying to finish a whole sentence. That's a great accomplishment here in Israel.
רגע, לא ביחד?
רגע, תן לסיים. בזמן שהוא היה נשיא, בזירה הבינלאומית, איראן כמעט פשטה רגל.
Okay, so at the time that President Trump was president, Iran almost became bankrupt.
היה הסכם שלום במזרח התיכון.
We had a new kind of peace deal in the Middle East, which was the Abraham Accords.
צפון קוריאה הפסיק ניסויים בליסטיים.
North Korea stopped its missile tests.
סין לא איים על טייוואן.
China did not threaten Taiwan.
לא היו כמעט מלחמות. סיים
There was barely any wars.
את דאעש בכמה שבועות.
He finished off ISIS in a few weeks.
כלכלה פרחה.
The economy flourished.
בארצות הברית.
אתה לא צריך לשכנע אותי כמה דונלד טראמפ היה טוב לישראל ובמדיניות במזרח התיכון.
So now he's coming back and he's saying, you don't have to convince me why Donald Trump was good for Israel in the Middle East.
אבל מבחינת נשיא, מבחינת מנהיג, הוא היה מנהיג גדול מאוד.
So you're saying he may not be a children's role model, but in terms of leadership, he was a great leader.
לכן אני לא מבין למה זה שנכון הוא פוגע בהוא ומעליב את ההוא, אבל מבחינת תחת ביידן.
You're saying don't look at the little things that he may speak in this way or might hurt somebody's feelings. If you actually see the big picture, it's something completely different in terms of policy. And conversely, in the Biden administration, hundreds of thousands of people have been killed in the Ukraine war. In Russia? Is there no importance? And I love what you're doing here. You're giving him a hard time. You're saying, is there no great importance to a president who brings peace to the world?
עדיין אני חושב שהשאלה שלי בעניין הזה הייתה מאוד מאוד
לכן אני חושב שלגבי טראמפ הוא באמת מנהיג גדול, נכון? כמו כולנו, הוא פגום באיזשהו מידה.
Okay, like all of us, he's got limitations, but I still think that he's a great leader. All right, that was a great clip. That was a great clip, Gideon, and I want to just take it off there. And I want to tell you that was a great job, and that was a great litany list of policy accomplishments. And here you are live with us, Gideon. So let's first start with how big of a deal is this victory? And of course, remember, we're talking about from our perspective, from Israel, from the Middle East.
Right. So just give me 1 second. When I saw that happening yesterday,
I felt like I had to say something because there's this thing that you can't feel proud to support Donald Trump. Everything has to be with yes, but, and I know, but he did that. And you know what? Nobody's saying anybody's perfect, but with all his accomplishments, that's a real leader, and there's something to be proud of. So I felt like I had to get it in, and I also this morning I was on I-24, and as I'm watching in the lobby, until I'm waiting for my turn to get called into the studio, I see Yossi Beilin, Israel's the architect of Oslo, in the studio, and he's making fun of Trump like a little kid in a nursery. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy, Balin, he's an intellectual. He speaks very nicely. He's the architect of the Oslo Accords, which have only brought death and destruction in the Middle East. And he's making fun of Trump, who brought peace to the world. So when I finally got into the studio, I was happy he was still there. And then I also gave this point again, and I added, and I said, there might be some people who think Donald Trump is a little kid. And I looked at him. I said, but he brought peace to the world. But anyways, to get back to your question,
I just want you to know that I also had an interaction with Yossi Beilin at I-24 Studios, which is like the only studio that keeps this kind of, a dinosaur who brought us disaster alive. But when I did the same thing and challenged him, he just stopped being interviewed. He basically was just like, he didn't want to play anymore. He was just like, I'm not playing this game. Why are you bringing this settler? Blah, blah, blah. And he was just done. So he doesn't play nice, but the only place that he plays is, these places where this man that brought death and destruction upon Israel, blithely minimizes exactly with the great list of accomplishments that you made. I'm really very impressed with that list that you came up with, because it really does show very serious policy things that were achieved in those 4 years, and there could have been done even more. What do you think? Okay, so let me get back to my question, but let's get through it quickly.
So
how big is this victory?
So so the importance for Israel, firstly, it's huge, but it didn't really matter who won. Israel had to sort of reassess its relationship with the United States, meaning if Harris had won, Israel would have been in serious trouble, and they would have had to figure out how to really be independent in terms of munitions, in terms of as much as they can militarily, really, really quickly. But with Trump, Israel right now has an opportunity, because Trump is basically, his approach is, listen, I want allies. I want real allies. I want equals. I want countries that can, share the burden of, taking care of their interests and expanding United States interests. So Trump wants a strong Israel in the Middle East that can take care of the problematic countries. He's happy to give diplomatic support, which is the opposite. Most presidents are more than happy to throw money at other countries, but diplomatic support, no. He's happy to give diplomatic support. He's happy to sell you the weapons you need. But after that's done, take care of what you need to take care of. And that's a great opportunity for Israel, but Israel has to rise to the occasion, and it needs to understand that there's a president that's offering it to be an equal. But at the same time, it also has to, what I believe, it has to look at the aid that it's getting now and saying, we need to figure out a way to wean ourselves off the aid, change it to joint cooperation, do something with it, because the relationship needs to be sort of restructured. It can't, for it to prosper under this Trump administration, when Republicans are saying our cities are falling apart, a lot of things are falling apart in America. Why are we giving aid to prosperous countries? So it's an opportunity for Israel to rise to the occasion, to be an equal, and to receive equal treatment, but also to understand that Israel has to take things upon itself. Now, for that to happen, there's something that has to go on in Israel, and that is that especially the Israeli right, because the Israeli left knows what it wants. The Israeli right has to finally decide, who are we and what do we want? What do we want in Lebanon? What do we want in Judea and Samaria? What do we want in Gaza? What do we want vis-a-vis the Arabs who live in Judea and Samaria? They have to figure this out and say it with confidence. And that's what our political leadership needs to do. And if they can do it, and I'm very skeptical, but if they can do it, then we really have a major opportunity with this Trump administration.
Right. So I think what you mean by with confidence is with clarity, i.e., have policy clarity. So let's clear it up right now. For example, when we're talking about Gaza, are we talking about military control of Gaza? Are we talking about military control and civilian resettlement, Jewish resettlement? Are we talking about annexation? Are we talking about giving something like residency to pro-Israel, non-jihadist Arabs? These things have to be said. These have to be done. Just in a Torah sense, we have to leave the behavior pattern of Yaakov, of Jacob, which is more kind of like a tricky, clever, knowing how to balance things, knowing how to say the right things at the right moment, with Yisrael, which means Yashar El, which is straight, clear policy. This is what we got to do. This is what we're doing. We're the sovereigns now. We understand that this is the Jewish state. This is Jewish land. There are minorities living amongst us. This is the status that we can give them. This is what gets them in trouble. Here it is. This is what we're doing. And of course, that makes for good deals. That's what makes for good policy. And what you're saying is Israeli leadership has to now rise up to the opportunity of elucidating and enunciating clear policy that we're going to follow, and we'll have a partner, a global partner, who's going to support that.
Right, because too often I think Israel is kind of defines itself depending on the U.S. administration that is in the White House, and I think the wiggling around, while that's maybe something that needs to be done during an Obama administration because there's really maybe no way to move forward, but it doesn't work with a Trump administration, because if Trump says, well, I want to pursue a peace deal, and you as the prime minister believe that there's really no peace deal that can be achieved with the Arabs in Judea and Samaria, what some people call the Palestinians, but then you say, you know what? Yeah, sure. Try it out. And then finally he spends his time and he comes up with something. And then you say, well, I don't know about this. Well, I don't know about that. Then a president like Trump gets angry and says, listen, you're not being serious. You're not,
right.
Let's
clear up what you're saying, in that you're actually talking about a real scenario which happened, which was the Trump administration did the first Trump administration did a lot of important things for Israel, even things that people don't know about. You know about the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. You know about the recognition of the Golan Heights, but you might not know that the United States left UNESCO, which is an organization that recognizes international heritage sites. They left that organization because of UNESCO's anti-Hebron decision, which they were going to take the Tomb of the Patriarchs and Matriarchs and make it a Palestinian World Heritage Site. It's just an example of the many things that were done. Mark and I counted like 18 separate big things that were done. But the Trump administration did run into a big problem when they came up with the deal of the century. The deal of the century was another form of a two-state solution. And Christian folks, pro-Israel ones, have shown that the minute he came out with the new form of a two-state solution, that's when all the troubles in his administration began, and that's where he fell. And all of us would do well to remember that.
Right. Right. And therefore I hope that that our political leadership can really, like you said, explain what we want with clarity, because there's truly a great opportunity, and like I said in the other clip, anybody who looks for stability in the world, who cares about the U.S.-Israel relationship, has to be so happy that Trump won. And by the way, even though while I said he might not be the babysitter of our kids, I think there's a major lesson to be learned from what Trump did. From in the last 4 years, he went from being someone who he wasn't only in the dump after he was in the dump in January 6th, then he was impeached, and when he in the Senate trial, even 7 Republicans voted for his removal from office, even though he had already finished. And from that low point where, to be connected with him was already, like almost like disgusting. It was toxic. He came from that place to 4 years later reclaim the White House. It's a comeback, unseen in the history of America, maybe in the history of Western countries. Who knows? But that's really something for.
And what do you think about the scope of the victory? It wasn't a hair. It wasn't on a dime. It wasn't close. It was a big old victory, a clear mandate. I heard people on the American left say that on the news broadcast. They were like, "This is big. This is a clear mandate here. This is not a almost." Right. This is not, you can't say, well, he won this kind of vote, but he won the electoral college, but he didn't win the popular vote. Like, this was a big old clarity, a win and a clarity. Is that correct? Do you see it that way?
I mean, even though sometimes 70 or 80 electoral votes can be decided by 100,000 votes, listen, he's won the popular vote, which is I think they're saying that he's going to win the popular vote. So that's pretty big. The reason, by the way, he's winning the popular vote is because in states like Florida, which were, just a few years ago, they were states that were decided by 0.5%, 1%. He won by, I think, almost like 14%. And in general, the Trump campaign and the Republican Party had established a serious ground game of signing up Republicans, more and more people to the Republican Party all over the country. And therefore, he was really able to run up the score in a lot of, traditional Republican states. So, I think, not only did he win the presidency, the Republicans are now in control of the Senate. It looks like they might even finish with 53 senators, which is very big. And the House hasn't been decided, but it's a real victory. It's
right.
A real victory.
All right. I want to say hi to all the folks out there watching us right now. I want to thank the folks that are working with me, Yocheved, my producer, and Elazar as well. Thank you very much for being on the team. And I want to tell people that your chats are so welcome, and we're having a conversation in community. I will be able to put up super chats to discuss the issues and the questions that you have for Gideon Israel. Here's Adam E. on a super chat saying Trump is on the record that he wants the war done before he assumes office. Do you have any concerns, as I do, about these type of statements? Thank you, Adam. What do you think, Gideon?
I think conventional wisdom and traditional wisdom is that long wars are never good, and I think Trump sees a war that's been going on for a year, and he says, like, what's going on? Either Gaza's a pretty small place. Either you win it or you don't win it, because Trump doesn't understand these wars that are fought as sort of a combination of SWAT team operations, which is essentially what the Israeli army is doing in Gaza. SWAT operation here, SWAT operation there. Trump understands war as you come in with all the power, with overwhelming force. You bomb the daylights out of the enemy. And
okay, get on that makes sense, but still, Adam's question is still okay. I'm glad you see it that way, but I've got my war that I'm fighting, and this is what I got right now for whatever reasons. Are you going to tell Israel what to do? And I think Adam has a point. I think that
I don't think Trump is gonna. I don't think Trump is gonna tell Israel what to do. I think when he gets into office, the war is not over for whatever reason. I think he'll say, listen, how about we set, a 3-month period, a 4-month period? I'll give you all you need. You tell me what you need to win. I'll give it to you, and let's finish it. Because at the end of the day, a war between Israel and the Muslim countries, it is taxing on the United States, because the United States is leveraging all these relationships. So therefore,
but it's not a war with the Muslim countries. It's a war with Iran and its proxies, and that's the big question. Will President Trump, and I think he was clear about it, and I think he will he help us continue to prosecute this war until the destruction of the enemies of Israel. And here I agree with you what you said previously, which it needs Israeli clarity to speak it that way. We have to say our goal is not to have some kind of a middle ground and some kind of neutral situation where we're not totally victorious. We want total victory. We need your help against these Iranian proxies and against Iran itself. And I hope that one of the first things that happen is that sanctions are levied back against Iran, and that sanctions, of course, are dropped against Jewish Israeli civilians who are doing nothing but resettling the Israeli heartland. Okay, let's put up that question again. Says Ugly Boy. I don't know why you would call yourself that, Ugly Boy. You're not ugly. You're beautiful, especially because you're with us today. He said, let the Kurds have Gaza. They need a homeland. It will be great for Israel's defense culture. I get the point, Ugly Boy, but you got to know that the Kurds have a Kurdish area that they've lived in traditionally. It's in northern Iraq, and it's also next to Turkey. It's next to Syria. It's next to Iran. They don't want to come into Gaza, but I get your point, which is that there are Muslims that are pro-Israel. And you know what the truth is? There are plenty of Gazans, not the majority, but there are plenty of Gazans who are pro-Israel and want a decent life within Israel and to be residents of Israel and to be part of our defense. So thank you very much for that question. Gideon, I wanted to, before I let you go, because I know you still got to go home after this long day, there's two more little things that we got to talk about, 2.5 things. But before the half is this. You mentioned that the Israeli right wing, the Israeli nationalist camp is happy today. So I wanted to play a video of Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, today from the Knesset stage, from the plenum, speaking from the podium, speaking about the victory of Donald Trump. So he's calling out to the other ministers and the Knesset members and the Speaker of the Knesset. Let's open up with blessings for the new President of the United States,
Donald Trump,
and he says part of the Jewish blessing that God has let us live to this moment, has helped us survive to this moment, and it's a way of saying this is a big deal. This is we bless this moment. So immediately he launches into a litany of policy prescriptions. He said this is the time for Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel, obviously about Judea and Samaria and Gaza. This is time for total victory. This is time to enact laws of death penalty for terrorists. All kinds of laws that I have no doubt that this president of the United States will see eye to eye with us. Blessings to President Trump, blessings to the state of Israel. With the help of God until the total victory. So there you go. There's one of the important members of this coalition, and certainly a firebrand, Itamar Ben-Gvir, a minister, and he is getting up there, and I think he's the first to jump in there and be like, this is a moment of opportunity to do great things, to move the policy prescriptions forward, and to change Israel, to bring terror on the terrorists, to hold on to our land. So I thought to myself, wow, I wanted to show you. What do you think of that? What do you think of that appearance of Itamar Ben-Gvir?
I think it was fine. Kind of
a little more excitement there. Get on. I know you're tired. Come on.
The fact that I didn't like the sentence that I think the president will be with us, meaning
eye to eye. He said it, that he'll see with us eye to eye.
Right. You know, but which is because it's like why does the president of the United States have to be involved in the laws that we make in our land? Meaning,
I think is opposed to a different president who would have tried to block. And
Right.
for example, our battle in Gaza, saying you're fighting too much in Gaza, you're not doing enough for the civilians, we're going to block weapons. So he's not saying he's going to prove it, but he's not going to give us a hard time and disapprove, I think.
Right.
Okay, Gideon. So I wanted to ask you two more important questions. And I'm going to fire them off for you about the elections. Number one, do you have any concerns about the final moments of the Biden administration? You know what? I'll stick with that.
There's listen, I think that Biden has advisors who are in key positions in the White House who are anti-Israel. They come from pro-Palestinian organizations that don't see Israel as even having a right to exist. And I think that those people in those positions are going to push for various measures against Israel in this final 2 months. Whereas in 2016, the stuff came from Barack Obama, to have the resolution passed at the Security Council without him, United States, doing a veto. I think that something might come from the advisors of Biden pushing him to do something. So there's definitely concern on that front.
I'll tell you what I'm concerned about. Recognition of a Palestinian state. That's something that I think could come down the pipes in the next 2 months, and we're going to have to fight that. And then if God forbid that happens, we're going to have to fight to, like we did with the Iran nuclear deal, to reverse that. But the point is, I think that is a real potential concern for us. Very finally, on the Trump issue, what about the international right-wing movements in Europe, in South America, and other places? Is there a boon? Are we going to see more elections that go in this direction? Are we going to see more folks around the world being like, hey, we're also anti-jihad, we're back to family values, we want to protect our borders, we want to see a strong Israel? Like Germany right now is starting to talk like that. Do you think that this is like a lighthouse moment for European nationalists? And I don't mean Nazis. I mean people who want to see a strong France and a strong Germany and a strong England. Do you think that this is a moment for them to also feel strengthened, just like our nationalist movements seem strengthened?
I think so. I don't know to what degree, but certainly when you see such a unique person like Donald Trump retake the presidency, I don't think it cannot affect you, and I don't think it cannot give people in various countries motivation to believe that they can produce the same grassroots type of movement that can overthrow the current government. So I don't know to what extent, but I definitely would say it has an effect.
Very good.